Charlie, hunger is a problem worldwide.
Oh, well, that's funny because I have something right here about domestic child nutrition. You know, domestic child nutrition is a huge problem, but it's helping end world hunger.
Really?
Yeah. The program seeks for nutritional safety for all kids around the U.S. and other countries. The USDA, which is the United States Department of Agriculture, but I'm sure you knew that, and the ESR, which is the Economic Research Service, moved to help these people. They focus mainly on stopping child hunger. The National School Lunch Program is something they created, which operates in 99,000 private schools and public schools. They attempt to give all students free or reduced lunch. And if you make less than $32,000 a year, you are eligible for free lunch. And if you make more than $32,000 and less than $42,500, you can receive reduced. In 2010, lunches were made healthier across the nation to help end child obesity and help create a better nutrition slate for all children around the U.S. There's also a summer program that they use to keep children hydrated and make them stay filled. They provide 2.8 meals a year, which I don't understand how you provide 2.8, but you know. They have 47,981 sites across the nation. During July, there's just the biggest season for it. They help over a million kids. Yeah. They have sites usually around schools, camps, park, and housing projects, churches, etc. And at least half the kids in the area, have to be in poverty. And yeah, that's about it for that. But there's also a vegetables and food program, which you may know if your child goes to school. Child, right?
I don't have kids.
Oh well, someone's child. If they give their child a quality diet. The number of obese children has increased dramatically. I'm pretty sure you've seen it though. Children 16 through 19 only consume half the amount of fruit and vegetables they need. This is why they seek to promote intakes of this. They make breakfast, lunch, and after-school lunches healthy. We'll see if the Trump administration keeps this up. Probably not.
And now to Charlie with the weather.
Thank you, Charlie. Today we talk about climate change. Climate change is a major factor in the reason why the world is suffering from hunger. From changing weather patterns to increasing rise of oceans, climate change is causing world hunger. One cause climate change has on world hunger is in certain populations of wildlife, the habitats are deteriorating. This causes the wildlife population to move somewhere else, or the wildlife dies in the habitat. Within certain wildlife populations, if a population dies off, a new invasive species will take over and potentially ruin the agriculture in the area. Climate change is also affecting world hunger by population of crops decreasing globally. As the years go on, less and less rainfall is being recorded in some areas where farmers need it the most, and more crops are failing to grow each year. Many farmers depend on rain since their country doesn't have enough water to irrigate their crops. Rainfall is also coming either later or earlier in the season, making farmers miss their chance to grow their crops at the right time, missing out on plentiful rainfall. Markets all over the world are failing because of climate change. Many markets depend on farmers to grow their crops and sell their crops in the market to earn money for their production. In recent years, production of crops decreased, making prices rise, and livestock prices rise. There is potentially more debate and beneficial for farmers to let their livestock consume their crops and potentially make a larger profit off of the livestock. But as climate change continues, there are less and less crops to grow, feed livestock, and to sell, making the world suffer, especially in developing countries. Climate change is affecting hunger all over the world, increasing crop supply, making inhabitable habitats, and just messing up the world, and it's all. Back to you, Charlie.
With a lack of farmland to use, most displaced people eat less and obtain an unhealthy diet. Take the issue in Syria. The displaced people are living airdrop by airdrop to obtain food from us and other supporting countries. Refugees are often in poverty where they go and have little to no food because of this. They can't stay in their countries or they will most likely die. But is it worse than having to suffer starvation from lack of income? Maybe with the new president, new laws will be placed to attempt to avoid this from happening. As countries are in civil war and wars and such, roads, agriculture, equipment, and important economic values are being destroyed. Since food has become more and more rare in select countries, prices rise, making it much more harder to get. This affects the country itself and countries all over the world. With limited food supply, trading is made difficult with the country's lack of security to protect the food supplies during shipments. Overall, conflict causes a major factor in world hunger.
Good evening. Your local news story is brought to you by The Ad Show with Junior and Pie Boy. Stick around to learn how to use the tri-irrigation system. Brought to you in part by 2XL and this traffic cone, along with the Junior.
I'm not in this.
Okay. Poverty is causing hunger. Today, poverty is one of the major causes of the hunger. Poverty has decreased since the 1980s, but is still a major issue. People around the world are suffering from hunger because they cannot afford food to feed themselves. They can't afford farming supplies to grow their food. It is said that hunger is one of the few dimensions of extreme poverty that doesn't plan to decrease unless a miracle occurs. Citizens in certain countries living in rural areas are affected the most by this. Families in the rural areas aren't making enough to pay their families' education, lifestyle, and hunger. Many people living in poverty choose not to send their daughters to school to save money and let the boys get the education in successful hopes that their education will help end their family's hunger. Because many of the girls are not attending school, more and more children are giving birth in their adolescence, eventually tagging on an individual in the problem of world hunger. Many people in developing countries live on less than $2 a day. That amount of people living in poverty has decreased by half, and food populations are increasing, so it puts more people not being able to afford food. 9 million people around the world die because of lack of food in developing countries, and 5 million of those people are children. Poverty-driven homes are least likely to have food in them, while in Britain, anyway, in Africa, more crops are turning bad than can be eaten. Many causes of poverty and hunger are due to the country itself. For a country at war, political members will focus more on the war than taking care of their own citizens. It would have little democratic rights and will show how much they care more about winning than feeding their own population. Many countries have land ownership, which the country cannot purchase the land from a landowner. Well, they can try. The landowner can choose not to sell any crops that could be a big influence on the country's economic food stability, causing the country to rely on exports more than their own crops.
And here's something that may surprise you. Wasting food is like wasting water. Yeah. Everything we eat has a water footprint. And the more food you throw out, the more water you're throwing out. An average person uses 265 gallons of water a year on food they throw out. Of course, it varies person to person. Like, you might just waste 30,000 gallons because, you throw a lot of food away. This doesn't help those already hungry. Now, they need water as well. The food that they consume the most water is, surprisingly, meat. Just 1 pound of beef takes 1,800 gallons of water to process. And we always throw out meat because it's expired. Freeze it next time.
Get it last night.
This is something we should watch out for. If you want to help end senseless food waste, there's a number of things you can do. You can just attempt to make the federal government have actions against food waste. Through how it works, the United States has a goal now to reduce their food waste by 50% by the year 2030. The NRDC has moved to try and change food date labels and reduce the amount of thrown out foods due to expiration dates. Schools have been known to waste millions of pounds of food a year because of misconceptions on date labels. There are also a number of things you can do to stop your food waste footprint. Freezing all your foods will kind of slow down the death time, like give an expanded life, like healthcare. Another great thing is to teach your kids early on that clean plates means healthier stomach and a healthier environment. Don't buy more than you'll use, and if possible, get on social media and tell your friends, stop wasting, start saving.
Hello everyone, my name is Pie Boy, this is Junior, and today we are reviewing the tri-irrigation system. You see, you attach this to your hose and it makes water comes out 3 ways to make your crops irrigate better. You know, like you have 3 holes right here, water comes out of them, and then you can irrigate your crops faster, and potentially, apparently there's supposed to be some kind of secret that makes your crops grow faster with this. So if I were you, I'd stop by your local grocery store or pharmaceutical store, you never know. They might have these in store for you. Ain't that right, Jerry? See, he says I'm right. Check it out.
And a common solution to hunger would be food banks. Food banks are non-profit organizations that store food. They don't personally feed the hungry, but they distribute food to the other smaller organizations or agencies. These banks distribute millions of pounds of food each year. A slight issue with food banks is that they rely heavily on donors and volunteers. Yet nonetheless, without these banks, more people would be in severe hunger than not. You may be confusing food banks and food pantries, but they are 2 different things. Food banks are warehouses that store food. Food pantries are places that are given said food and distributed to the community. Food banks gave out a total of 3.6 billion meals through all their arms. Food banks receive donations from national food, grocery manufacturers, retailers, shippers, packers, growers, government agencies, and other organizations like them. There are around 25 countries with food banks that you may donate to. Some of these countries include the United States of America, Australia, Israel, Turkey, Russia, India, Taiwan, Colombia, Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Guatemala, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, and the UK. You can donate to all these countries to help them as well. You can even have a nice trip to another country if you choose to help. Hopefully more countries will join in the upcoming years. There are local food banks as well that you can participate and donate at. You could participate in a 5K walk for Run for Hunger to raise awareness and money for it. In September of every year, there's a Hunger Action Month, in which you can help bring awareness and help those in need of food. This food bank serves more than 145,000 households in the Lake and Porter counties. 1/6 people in our community don't know when their next meal will come from. You can help change these things for the betterment of our community.
I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to thank my co-anchors, Charlie, and the weatherman, Charlie. This is Charlie signing off. See you tomorrow at 7:45.